He turned a promise into a spectacle, and somewhere between the first handshake and the seven-figure bills, the Invictus Games stopped being just about wounded veterans and started looking a lot like a luxury tour with a charity label. Welcome to Royal Scope. Prince Harry launched Invictus as a pledge: help soldiers heal through sport. It began small, authentic, raw, athletes with grit, crowds moved to tears, a founder who'd lived the life he now championed. But the numbers tell a different story now. What started as a $1 million event for roughly 400 people has ballooned into a $63 million production with far fewer clear outcomes. How do you scale a noble idea into a global brand without losing the people it was meant to serve? And, more importantly, who's cashing in along the way? At the 2023 Games in Dusseldorf, a moment stuck in people's throats. Harry arrived injured, rolling in a wheelchair that lacked restraint straps, equipment failures that read like negligence. Competitors were reportedly paying for their own housing, wheelchairs, even essential equipment. Yet cameras captured Harry and Meghan basking in applause, lodged in five-star hotels, traveling on private jets. The optics were brutal, veterans covering living costs while a glittering entourage took the spotlight. Open loop. Later I'll show exactly how taxpayer money and unnamed sponsors stitched into this story, and why that matters more than you think. Digging into the finances only deepens the mystery. The Invictus operation pulled in roughly $62 million for that iteration, but about half reportedly came from Canadian public coffers and the government of British Columbia. At a time when grants to wounded veterans have dropped by more than 60%, public donors were underwriting pageantry, while prosthetics, home adaptations, and direct veteran services struggled for funding. Compare this to other veterans competitions. The U.S. Warrior Games run on about $2 million a year. Similar events in Germany cost a fraction. So why the gap? Where did the rest go? Critics point to a PR calculus. Harry is preparing for Birmingham and needs sponsors. Public filings show only about £4 million in corporate sponsorships, many unnamed. Organizers reportedly need an additional £25 million to match government commitments already pledged. The message being broadcast to potential backers is part humanitarian, part premium branding. The question everyone asks in private is blunt. Is Invictus a charity first, or a marketing engine dressed in medals and feel-good speeches? That tension blooms around Meghan Markle's appearances. Every time she attends, the narrative tilts, fast and predictable. Headlines cease to celebrate athletic feats and instead analyze dresses, designers, and body language. Fashion becomes the news, not feats of resilience. For many veterans and observers, that shift feels insulting. Years of sacrifice reduced to wardrobe breakdowns while the people who need prosthetics or ramps are told to wait. But this is not just about celebrity. It's about accountability. Some filings reveal oddities. A for-profit company with unclear purpose paid tens of thousands. Inconsistent registration numbers on the same balance sheet. Audits are pending. A petition demanding leadership changes quietly circulated. Whispers of missing funds and unclear spending priorities grew louder as invoices stacked up and the public asked simple questions. Where did our money go, and why are athletes paying to participate in an event supposedly meant to support them? Open loop. Coming up, I'll walk you through a specific spending example that helps explain why ordinary taxpayers started asking for an audit. Supporters of the Games push back hard, and with reason. Harry was the spark. His service, connections, and genuine rapport with wounded servicemen and women gave Invictus legitimacy when it mattered most. Early on, that celebrity was a tool for good, raising awareness, drawing sponsors, and making wounded veterans visible in the public eye. To argue he remains indispensable is not absurd. His presence still draws headlines and donations in ways that mere committees cannot. Yet institutions evolve. Invictus has grown into a global brand with governments, corporate sponsors, and committees attached. To some observers, the founder now functions more as a figurehead while the machinery operates autonomously. That raises a sharper question. When does stewardship become spectacle? And when does growth demand transparency that the current structures appear unwilling to provide? The human side of this story is the hardest to swallow. Veterans who should be front and center say they paid their own fees. One widely shared anecdote described a wheelchair basketball match where American players stood up and walked to the end, an image critics called embarrassing and disrespectful toward athletes who rely on those devices every day. Veterans need ongoing care. Prosthetics, home adaptations, long-term counseling. Large sums allocated to a glitzy opening ceremony don't buy those essentials. Still, many defenders insist the games do more than headlines suggest: community, purpose, therapy through sport. The concern is that a single headline about designer labels or private jets can erase a decade of good work, and that the conversation about money blurs into a cultural fight over celebrity, responsibility, and what we value as a society. Now, here's where you come in. If you care about veterans, and about accountability, what should matter is simple: transparency. Name your sponsors. Publish detailed budgets. Prioritize direct grants and equipment over red carpet moments. An organization that asks nations to chip in should be able to show line by line how those funds return to veterans' lives. At 70% through this video, if you've watched this far, tell me, do you think Invictus can be salvaged as a charity, or is it forever a brand? Drop your take in the comments. Subscribe to Royal Scope and hit the bell so you don't miss the follow-up where I unpack the audit documents and trace the money trail in full. Your voice shapes how this story unfolds, because the stakes are more than optics. When a promise to wounded warriors becomes fodder for debate about dresses and travel, the people who actually need help lose. That should unsettle anyone who believes charity must be equal parts heart and accountability. Invictus was born from a soldier's vow to help his brothers and sisters heal. It deserves the best possible defense of that vow: clear funds, measurable outcomes, and a spotlight that stays where it's meant to be, on the athletes. If you want the full deep dive, documents, line items, and the names behind the anonymous sponsors, watch the next video linked at the end of this one. And if you want Royal Scope to keep pulling at these threads, press subscribe, ring the bell, and tell a friend. We'll keep asking the hard questions, because when charity and celebrity collide, scrutiny is the best ally of the vulnerable. What do you think, charity in crisis, or a misread media moment? Tell me below.